the end of the world as we know it. Because those are the operative words here. As we know it. Meaning that your life cannot function the way it used to. Especially if there's no power, right? If there's no gas, there's no automobile.
So you're a philosopher?
Yes. I think very deeply.
Yo, peace and blessing, family. My name is Gerald Hassan, also known as Mr. Shift Your Perspective of Enlightened Minds Enterprise. Hey, I wanted to share this thought with you real quick. And it's a thought just about what's going on in Houston right now. We had a tornado that come through yesterday evening, and it just knocked down a lot of power lines, locked down phone towers. It tore up a lot of stuff, tore up people's houses, knocked down trees, knocked down fences, all of that, right? And from my understanding of the report, like, I don't know if it said millions or a million of people are without lights, and I'm one of them. My family is also some of them, and some of my family do have power. But here's what inspired me or compelled me to make this video, and it's that I was talking to friends and associates in different other cities, other states, as well as other parts of the countries, right? Other countries, better yet. And some people aren't aware of what's going on because the news, right? Some people aren't aware of what happened here. But let me tell you something. It is very difficult to also connect with what's going on. I want to use this time just to emphasize something, and it's just really like just a certain level of awareness, right? A perspective to keep in mind, right? And it's one that, you know how, have you ever heard the saying where someone said, you don't really understand unless you've experienced something? You know how we quick to try to empathize with somebody and we'll say, hey, I understand what you're going through. Well, I've learned that you don't understand, right? This is what I've been taught and how I've been taught by the minister, that you don't really understand unless you've experienced the thing. If you have not experienced that exact thing that someone else is going through, you only can say out of sincerity of mind that I have an idea, or I have an idea of what you're going through, or I can't even imagine what you're going through, and just offer something. But to say I understand, an understanding comes from an experience. It's like you don't understand that you went through that experience. You can go through similar things, similar losses, take similar things, right? But unless you are in that exact condition or state of details and circumstances, right? It is taught that we just got to be a little bit hesitant about saying how we understand something. So with that being said, when we go through something, the way we understand it is totally different than before we went through it. We can hear about all type of disasters going around from different cities, different states, so on and so forth, right? We can hear about all the different disasters. And we can have a certain degree of empathy and a certain degree of quote unquote understanding about what's going on, right? Because of what we've experienced or because of what we've seen, right? And in our mind, even if we haven't experienced because of maybe what we've seen, we think we know what those people are going through, right? But we don't. In an experience, how we just don't understand certain things, right? But in that experience, it resonates on a whole deeper level. When you go through an experience, there are so many different ramifications involved in it. So many different little details in it. And there's no way that a person can communicate that to another person to the way they really feel it and experience everything that you've experienced and feel. With all those little details, because one, it's going to be different for their life versus your life. That's one. But two, the details are just so many. Now, maybe we just sit here talking, I can tell you, hey, man, when the lights went out, this happened, that happened, this happened, man, when the trees fell, this happened, this happened. I mean, you can just run it all through that, but it's a lot of detail involved. One thing is connected to so much. Well, let me get to my point. Because in this experience, right, and again, it's definitely not the first experience, not even the far worst experience. I've been through way much more. Having lights out is definitely not the worst, but I want you to understand just how your world can change, how your world can be altered so dramatically, just with something as simple as the power being out, and the power being out over a certain amount of time. Yeah, we can probably maintain and refrain for a week or two, and some people longer, depending on their resources and their preparation. But at some point, we all will feel it. And at some point, the law of preservation starts kicking in. The law of self-preservation kicks in immediately, but it gets more intense as time goes by. You see, a law created in a natural opposition, right? The law of self-preservation is a part of our innate nature. It's a part of how we've been created. However, the way that thing works, Allah did tell us to go against it because it's a very selfish nature. It can be very diabolical. It can be very savage. So even though that's a part of the nature of self-preservation, Allah did tell you to control that. Get that in check. Balance that out. Go against it too. It's not just about you. Y'all have to survive. You know, and this be the trial. This be the test of how you go through this moment. It was the book I had bought when I was in prison, maybe like 20 years ago, something like that. Anyway, it's by James Wesley Rawls, founder of survivalblog.com. And it's called How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It. Tactics, techniques, and technologies for uncertain times. Let me tell you something. When you think about the end of the world, I know before I read the book, and I haven't even read the book completely, but before I had started reading the book, the end of the world looked like Mad Max, looked like Days of the Thunderdome, looked like the Book of Eli, right? And the end of the world could look like that very easily. But the end of the world could also not look like that. The end of the world as we know it, because those are the operative words here, as we know it. Meaning that your life cannot function the way it used to, especially if there's no power, right? If there's no gas, there's no automobiles, if there's no available water. I was just informed some days ago. I think it's, in Ghana, or I think it's in Ghana. How they only get a certain amount of water once a week. Once a week, they get a certain amount of water. And with that water, they need to do everything they're going to do with it. So this is why they then use the rivers to wash clothes, to bathe, and just to do whatever stuff that they're going to do without probably eating or drinking. And the water that they get, they're going to cook and drink that. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing going thrown. We got to quick, we ought to boil something and throw the water away. Ain't none of that. Everything is to be utilized. While talking to these different people in different places, it's so easy for us when we think about what's going on in Palestine, no matter how we think about it, because we've never experienced such a thing, it's no way that we can relate. It's no way that we can truly understand what the people are going through. Because we've never experienced a thing on that level. I'm not saying everybody, some of us may have experienced that, but I'm saying for those of us who's born here, citizens of here, been here damn near all our life, we ain't experienced that. But we're going to experience such a thing one day. It's ordained. We're going to experience such a hellish condition one day, man, before the sun truly rises again. And it is that day that we should be preparing for. A lot of us are having so much fun, entertainment, and want to be comfortable, and just, we get so caught up in the mode of wanting to relax, and we're not ready. And I'm saying more than anything, being ready here, we not ready, and we got to get ready. We got to get ready, man. Whatever that looks like for you, whatever that looks like for me, whatever it looks like for my family, we got to start putting things in place. Generators, more than one. Now you can't just store a lot of gas up, but you should always at least have one thing of gas. We should have more than one gas container, and that gas should be recycled out over a course of time. You got to utilize it and refill it. Pour it in a vehicle or whatever. Utilize that gas before it go too bad. All these things we just got to find out, man. How long can you store gas in certain containers? Those of you who got the resources, that make that money make sense. Because it's going to come a time where people, even with resources, are not going to have access to those resources. All that money is just going to disappear. You're going to be living in these big houses and have all these cars and all this, that, and other, and you ain't going to be able to do nothing with it. Your jewelry and all that stuff, it may have some value, but in a world where the only thing valuable are things that can help you make it to the next day, gold and diamonds not going to be valuable. The only thing going to be valuable is food and water, medicines, things like that. herbs, things like money and currency and things that you just can store up. There may come a time where it's valuable again, but there's gonna come a time where that stuff is not going to mean nothing. And we have to prepare for that time. You know, it may not happen in some of our days, but it's going to happen in some of our days. You know, to my younger people, you really need to start getting your minds right. Getting high every day ain't gonna cut it. And I'm not judging, I'm just saying. Anything that isn't conducive towards the overall objective, man, we got to really reevaluate that. I'm sorry, one more thing about the book right here. That one of the examples they use in here of how life can change is used the New York situation where the light grid went out.
Electricity is really far more important than anyone realizes. We take it for granted, we flick the switch and it goes on, but it has to be in balance or the lights go out.
There has been a massive power outage throughout much of the Northeast, both of the United States and of Canada.
Millions and millions of people were caught by surprise when the electrical grid suddenly crashed.
It shut down 100 power plants, from Ottawa down to Cleveland and as far east as New York.
The most immediate concern was for thousands believed to be stranded underground in the dark in the New York subway system or in elevators in skyscrapers.
A normal August afternoon had turned to crisis. Around 50 million people across the U.S. and Canada were left without power.
All of Cleveland's water supply runs on electric pumps.
My water commissioner said, the people in the Heights have water for 3 hours. I said, water? I thought the electric was out. He said, Mayor, how do you think the water gets from the lake to the people in the Heights?
You can get along in the dark, you can get along in the heat, but water becomes a health and safety issue very quickly.
It took 29 hours for the power to be turned back on in most major cities, but the brief outage contributed to at least 11 deaths and caused an estimated $6 billion in economic losses.
So if your water can't be pumped, your sewage system is also backed up. Just imagine, man, I've been on prison where the whole end of a unit didn't have water for over a week. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks. To the point where dudes were having to defecate inside of trash bags and throw it over the run. Because the defecation in the toilet was at max. It's filled up in there. They covered it up with something. Still in the cell though. You're in the cell, can't get out. You're on a whole line of 100-something people. There are 200-something people on this line. And this is the condition, no water. You can't even go shower, but every 3 days. Because there was a part of the unit that did have water, but I'm saying on this end of the unit, it didn't have water. And I was just blessed not to be on that end of the time. But just imagine, man, a city like that. Or cities like that. Just imagine life changing to the point to where we don't even have, like where the whole United States lose power for over, let's say 2 or 3 weeks. Man, you may not can't fathom what that's gonna look like, but it's gonna be a hellish condition. It's gonna be some stuff that we could have never ever imagined. You talking about a dark age or a dark period, it's gonna get crazy. No power, that's no food, that's a lot of food going bad. That stores being broken into, it's crime, it's killings, it's no gas, because you need power to pump gas at the pumps. Can't pump water, sewage messed up. Do you understand? Life can change dramatically. And just imagine if that happened, then the United States get attacked. Just imagine, man. While in that condition, the United States didn't get attacked. Are we mentally ready for something like that? I can't even say I am. I don't know. I've never been through it. So how can you say you're mentally ready for something you've never been through? I'm not gonna be that arrogant, that cocky, that bold. I pray that I'm mentally ready. You know, I believe that I will adjust. But so many people in America on medication. Do you understand that? So many people in America is on medication that if some medication, while it might not be life-threatening if you don't take it, but if you stop cold turkey, it can be life-threatening. And just imagine, man. Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to share that thought with you, just put something on your mind. Because we have to shift the way we operate and the way we move, man. We cannot keep doing the same thing while expecting something else. We have to change our daily activity, our daily mode of operation, man. We have to, man. We have to. Anyway, with all that being said, peace and blessings.